Hey, everybody, it's Eri from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and I want to talk about DeFi because whether you realize it or not, it is coming. And I'm not talking about in 3 or 4 or 5 years. I'm talking about this year. The banking world, as we have known it for the last few hundred years, is going to be flipped on its head. And many of you, if not most of you who are watching this video will soon, or maybe already are, taking part in this decentralized finance, or what is being called DeFi. So for the XRP holders, it is probably going to be through the Spark token that you're going to participate with the Flare networks, and that will happen as soon as Q2 of this year. And there's a lot of other projects coming. I'm going to have an AMA with a company that has a team that is also going to bring a new DeFi project to the space. I think Jungle Inc. is going to join me. We've got a loose date. It should happen within 4 days from now, but I'll be sure to let you know more details when I have it completely firmed up. Now, this is a company that if you're in the crypto space, you should know. It's called Elliptic, and they help companies handle crypto and staying compliant. And that would be with the anti-money laundering regulations by using their technology. And they do that to fight crime and bad actors. And so when you are within a regulated space, it's easy, right? You have these companies that provide technology to monitor more than 100 different digital assets, evaluating the risk through their score system. You've got companies like Binance, Coinbase, SBI, Stellar. They're using this company that allows them to screen and monitor the wallets and transactions, etc. But with DeFi, wow, it just kind of comes crashing right against this sort of business model. Simone Maini, she is the CEO of Elliptic. She was appointed to this position just last April, but she actually was promoted from the COO position that she held for nearly 4 years. This company, which also has an interesting board with members from SBI, Wells Fargo, Santander, and Simone had a one-on-one webinar with Brian Brooks just a couple of days ago. And I want to share with you what he said towards the end of their webinar, because it is really, really powerful. He made a statement that I think can't be missed. I really saw his fire. He's, by the way, going to take about a 30-day break, and then he said he's going to reemerge. So we have probably until maybe the end of February to see him return. I'm not sure where that's going to be, but I can tell you, thanks to Luis_C, who brought this video to my attention, and then thanks to Bank XRP, who put it on YouTube. Both you guys are just, doing great work out there at sharing this kind of information, because it's truly chilling what he has to say. I want you to listen and really take his words here to heart.
Really. First of all, what do you see as the priorities for US policymaking when it comes to crypto that you'd like the next administration to keep in mind? What's your call to action to those that are following your footsteps?
I want to be careful how I say this, but because I'm going to make 2 points that might sound like they're in tension with each other. The first is, it is super important, not just in this country, but globally, that we stop politicizing tech. Somehow, for a variety of reasons, technology itself has become highly, highly political. And the ability of the United States to continue to lead in innovation, for Silicon Valley to deliver the life-changing things that's delivered from Google to Amazon to smartphones and everything else, is at risk if tech becomes a Republican versus Democrat issue, or a Labor Party versus Tory Party kind of issue. We have to resist that. Here's the statement that will be somewhat in tension with that, which is, on the theory that hard facts make bad law, we had a really, really awful event in the United States last week, as everybody knows. I mean, we saw things that were not worthy of a mature democracy in the 21st century, not worthy of the heirs of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Okay. What has followed from that, however, is truly chilling. So now you've got payments companies saying that they won't process the payments of people who are on a certain political party who voted one way on a contested political issue. You know, you've got MasterCard and Visa beginning by saying they don't want to process payments for pornography, but now saying they also may not want to process payments for guns or tobacco or a series of other things that aren't illegal and that people want, and it's their money. We live in a world where not only information, but also money might be controlled by a handful of elites who might not like the way that any given one of us thinks on a given issue. This is what decentralization is about. In the world of crypto, there is no CEO to be platform, right? Crypto is about freedom. And if you didn't believe that freedom mattered last week, you should think it matters today. That's the call to action. We have to build this stuff to avoid tyranny at some level.
We have to build this stuff to avoid tyranny at some level. He's talking about decentralization, not allowing a handful of elites to tell us how we can spend our money. So in the world of crypto, there is no CEO to deplatform. Crypto is all about freedom. I am so impressed with Brian. I can't wait to see when he comes back what role he's going to take in continuing to lead in this world. Tyranny, for the viewers who might not have English as their native language, this is a word or a noun that defines an oppressive, cruel government or a user of power that is unreasonable in its control. So tyranny is one of those words that has declined significantly in its use since the early 1800s. So you can see in how Google has tracked the word being used in books. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands the meaning of tyranny. And on Friday, there was an article about the CEO, Jamie Dimon, who had a message to his management team. They manage 3.4 trillion, so they are a banking Goliath today. But as he says, and I quote, "Be frightened. Absolutely, we should be scared." And yes, he uses the S word. We should be scared-less about the Fintech threat. And the point that I want to really bring to you today is that he still doesn't get it. He named PayPal, Square, Stripe, Ant Financial, Amazon, Google. These are all the names that he says you have to keep an eye on. These are the centralized companies. No, Jamie Dimon, you don't get it still. And as he says here, I expect to see very, very tough, brutal competition in the next 10 years. I expect to win, so help me God. That's his quote. Mr. Dimon, I don't think you understand the competition of DeFi. Not at all. In fact, Mr. Brooks, Brian Brooks, he does get it because he wrote this article, which was an opinion piece that was published in the Financial Times. And he knows that we need to get ready for self-driving banks. This is the decentralized services in finance, known as DeFi. So Brian really is warning the community within the legacy banking system that DeFi is just around the corner. And why is this important to you if you're an XRP holder? Well, because you're going to be one of the first that can participate from that screenshot that was taken for the Spark token. You're going to be able to actively execute smart contracts in this new world of DeFi in Q2 with your FLR on the Flare networks. I want you to listen to this one last portion of the webinar with Brian Brooks, because you're going to hear where he really addresses DeFi.
For anyone that missed it, Brian authored a really interesting opinion piece in the Financial Times that was published yesterday, where you discussed the concept of a self-driving bank, based on decentralized finance or DeFi. So can you just briefly explain what you mean, first of all, by a self-driving bank?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that term, I have to say. I've already seen it stolen by a couple of conference organizers literally in the last 24 hours, so that's how you know it's successful. The concept basically is this, is look, what we do at the OCC and at all bank regulators really, is we administer a whole set of rules that are mostly designed to constrain bad behavior by bankers. We really do very little about banks. It's mostly a set of rules that say, hey, boards of directors cannot engage in self-dealing loans with themselves, or, bankers who commit fraud might be banned from the industry and have to pay a penalty, or, we need people to make credit decisions based on a list of factors, and if they don't, then they'll get in trouble. It's mostly about individual behavior. And when we charter a bank, by the way, we issue a charter to a group of organizers. So you have to have 5 people and a board of directors in order to get a bank charter accepted. The question I ask in the article is, if you look at these DeFi protocols, the more mature DeFi protocols basically are offering everything banks do. They offer payment services. They offer a chance to engage in exchange. They offer lending and borrowing options and a whole bunch of other things. And there are no human beings associated with them. They're just open source software doing all that stuff. So it's very like self-driving cars, right? Historically, all the rules of the road were about human beings. Don't drive while drunk. Drive the speed limit. Use your turn signal. Get a driver's license. Those aren't rules about cars. They're rules about drivers. What do you do when all of a sudden there is no driver? Who's responsible? How do you make sure the cars, who are you regulating? You're no longer regulating people. You have to regulate the thing. And so what I talk about in the article is there could well be, and I think we're on the way to having a series of bank-like software packages where I can simply log on to an internet address and I can say I need a loan at 4% for 3 years, and that DeFi protocol will find that for me. And I will never know where the money's coming from, and it won't matter because I'm going to lock a certain amount of value in the smart contract, which will release payments. The payment will be distributed algorithmically, and that'll be the deal. All of those things are what banks do. Who's going to oversee that, right? And what I posit in this article is, imagine a world where we were granting charters to software as opposed to individuals. We could say, yes, that software protocol, which we've now examined at the code-based level, meets our requirements. It is fair. Anyone who logs on is getting full disclosure of what they're getting. No loan terms, and the smart contract do what they purport to be doing. So we're good with that. And now that banks can connect as nodes on blockchains, the way that the OCC might examine that, we might simply plug into that blockchain. We can plug into the maker blockchain, for example, and we can look at the code base. And as we saw things that might be violations, we might step in and adjust the code base or find some way of blocking a change or something else that would violate the law with no human beings being involved. But ultimately, that's what crypto is about, right? Is to migrate the stuff that currently has a high friction because of human involvement into a world that has no friction because it's fully decentralized. That's the ultimate state that we're trying to get to. But it requires us thinking about the idea that it's not just that Bitcoin might be a good way of saving money or ETH might be a good way of building contracts. The entire financial services experience may migrate to software, in which case, what should we do since we're supposed to protect people from bad outcomes?
I smile when he says we might try to find some way to block it. It's going to be interesting to watch how they try to regulate this decentralized finance. I really am looking to that. And Galgatron, You're starting to scare me. You've been gone too long. So you said you were going to be back soon, and it's not soon now. So I just am starting to worry. So I'm giving you a shout out. Yeah, don't pull a Hodor on us, please. I worry about that. I'm missing you, especially with everything that we've got going on here with Ripple and the SEC. So please hurry on back. And cherry blossom season, we're jumping to the fluff. The prediction came out, I think it was today or yesterday. This is something that's done every day, and it's very early this year. I think maybe one of the earliest years ever. Tokyo is predicted to have its blossoms blooming by the 18th of March. That's very early. It's like 10 days earlier than previous years. If you don't get a chance to see it in Tokyo, well, there is actually a blossom trail for nearly 2 months, starting down in the southern part of Kyushu. You can work your way up into April in the Tohoku region and up in Hokkaido all the way to May. So you do have some multiple opportunities depending on where you are geographically to see the cherry blossoms here in Japan. And then I wanted to just briefly talk about Kabuki. It's a Japanese drama that has really been so super popular for 400 plus years. It is with over-the-top glamorous costumes worn by the performers that have developed now into all-male theatrical troupes. But the entertainment, which takes place on a stage, has been described by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. You might not think it is for you, but I really hope that you give it a try. If you don't get the all-day tickets, you can do just the one act for nearly it's like just a little over $20. And this is the theater that's in Ginza in Tokyo called Kabukiza. And unfortunately, they have been really hit hard in this particular situation with the social distancing. You can see how many of the seats are not able to be sold. And they've taken a big financial hit. And you don't have to tell you, it is got some of the coolest people in the space. This is Ebezo, and he is the 11th generation to hold his name title. He is one of the coolest guys in Kabuki, and his son now is starting to act. He debuted, I think, at just, how old was he when he debuted? He was maybe 3 or 4 years old. So I think he's now going on 6 or 7. He's extremely popular when he is in one of the shows. Everybody wants to see him. So this is what, 12th generation. These actors are born into the performing families. And yeah, they start their careers very, very early. It's a very serious art form. But this is what I really wanted to share with you. And it is an augmented reality application that can be downloaded. And there is a Kabuki actor who performs a 6-minute dance for you in a very heavy Kabuki style. And I thought, this is just super, because if you can't go and see it in person, why not see it in an augmented reality, dancing on top of your latte, for example? I think this is just clever, and I can imagine this augmented reality can bring so many different experiences to everybody's world just with the use of their cell phone. I love the technology and where it's going. And Kabuki is known very much for its heavy painted faces. And I found, just in doing some of the research with what's going on in the Kabuki world, that the Japanese Self-Defense Force has actually painted or put a skin on one of their C-1 transport planes in a Kabuki themed style. This is the face paint that is also well known within the theater. That is great, isn't it? I think it's really great. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.